අවපුර තොර අකුළු ලමින් සුරකින බැවින් සිරිදලඳා සමිඳු පෙමින් පරසතු කුසුම් උඩුගුවනි විසුරුවමින් පෙරහැර පවත්වති දෙවියෝ
අපඩා ආයුබෝව වේවා. ශාස්ත්‍රීයත්වය කරන කොටගෙන ඉටුකන්ට යෙදෙන පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ 2023 වසරේ දෙවන කුඹල් පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයයි විදි සරන්නට දැන් සියල්ල සූදානම් කරමින් පවතින්නේ. 7:05ට යෙදුණු සුබ මුහුර්තයෙන් දකුණු දිශාභිමුඛව මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යය ආරම්භ වෙනවා. සුබ මුහුර්තයෙන් සිංහරාජා විසින් සදාතුක කරුණුන් වහන්සේ පෙරහැර කරුණුන් වහන්සේ වැඩමවීම ඉටුකවිද වර්ණ රටාවගෙන් සුසැදි නෙකවිද නර්තනයන්ගෙන් සුසැදි නෙකවිද වාදනයන්ගෙන් සුසැදි මේ අලංකෘත වූ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යය නරඹන වග හොඳ හැටි දන්නවා. ඒ නිසා අපි ආරාධනා කරනවා ශ්‍රී දලදා මාලිගා මාධ්‍ය කාර්යාංශයේ ලෙස ඔබට මේ හොඳම රූප දසුන් රූප කාව්‍ය ඔබ netumaanයට ගෙනෙන්නට අප සමග රැඳෙන්න මේ ආරම්භ වන්නේ දෙවන කුඹල් පෙරහැරයි. දමිළ මාදෙන් කෝෂික
நன்றி ஜெயனா. அன்பு அடியார்களுக்கு இனிய வணக்கம். இது அசல பெரகராவினுடைய இரண்டாம் நாள் கும்பல் பெருக வருக என வரவேற்பதில் பெருமகிழ்ச்சி அடைகின்றோம். இக்காட்சியை காண முடியாதவர்கள் டயலாக் தொலைக்காட்சி 119, பிஓடிவி 20 310, ஃப்ரீசட் 2 மற்றும் தலதா மாளிகாவினுடைய யூடியூப் ஃபேஸ்புக் தளங்களினூடாக நேரடியாக கண்டுகளிக்க முடியும். சந்துனி, இதோ உங்களுக்கான நேரம்.
Yes, Koshigan, ladies and gentlemen, we are here today to witness another spectacle which descends as this procession winds its way throughout the streets of Kandy. The reverence of the sacred tooth relic of the Lord Buddha will be palpable in the air around you. As this procession is considered to be an auspicious occasion where the cultural and spiritual energies converge, thousands of people from all corners of the world have already gathered to the World Heritage City of Kandy to witness this procession live. So, this invitation
Dalada Samidu Pehitai. We are delighted to welcome you to the special live broadcast of the second Kumbal Perahera of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2023, brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa Kandy.
You are now seeing the Perahera officials obtaining the permission and blessings of the Devalaya Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic, before commencing their street perambulations. This is the handing over of keys by the Devalaya Nilame to the officiating bhikkhus.
Now we see the chief prelate of the Devabara prelate of the Malwata chapter, Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Medankara Thero, who will be making his way from the upper level, the Ihalamalaya, to the lower Perahera casket under the protection towards the ceremonial tusker under much veneration amidst the offering of light, sounds, scents and flowers all the way to the upper chamber until it is placed on the awaiting tusker.
We are now seeing the Perahera casket, which contains 32 relics of Lord Buddha, being placed within the run helige, is mounted on the lavishly costumed tusker, who will uplift the majesty of this great procession. Are seeing offering flowers and floral garlands to the Perahera casket, and this is the second Kumbal Perahera of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2023.
This is the devout moment when the royal tusker shall step majestically down from the Mahavahalkada, the main entrance, onto the Sandagala, the moonstone, amidst the tune of traditional Nagasingham music, in preparation to parade the streets of the Kandian city. Today, the royal tusker will be Singharaja of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
On this year 2023, we are witnessing the grace of the 1713 Perahera that had begun during the reign of King Kirti Sri Meghavarna, who pledged that the relics must be carried around the city once a year, and this of our country.
Walking up front with the sound of the thundering whips piercing through the skies are the whip crackers, announcing that the procession has commenced, and these whip masters are tasked with clearing the way for the sacred relic casket and the king.
The Perahera is believed to be held in prayer for timely rainfall, and the elements of the Perahera is structured in a symbolical way that it paints the imagery of a rainfall. Rain would never be showered without the striking sound of thunder, and these whip wielders are the symbolic imagery to depict the sound of lightning and thunder, to pay homage to the rain gods, requesting to bless our crops and cultivations with rain.
When looking back at history in the ancient times, it was the ruling king who would parade the streets in the Perahera, but now it is the Diyavadana Nilame, the lay custodian of the sacred tooth relic of Lord Buddha, who will resemble the king in the modern day Perahera.
The whipmaster's duty is handed down from generation to generation of their clans, and only those who have mastered the art of whip cracking will be taken to participate in the Kandy Esala Perahera.
It can be noticed how these whipmasters are untying the knots that are formed with the whipping, and that is carefully manipulating their whip, that is nearly 7 feet in length, which is made out of the natural materials known as Niyaga and Navapatta, which indicates how traditions have been preserved and the authentic methods have not changed throughout the parading history of 1713 years. Many onlookers who are seated around the city of Kandy to witness this Perahera can be seen throwing thousands of coins to the streets in the belief that this practice will ward off any evil from their loved ones and for blessings from the sacred tooth relic.
Nilesh, this is a beautiful tradition that highlights the basis for giving, offering and sharing among the people of our land. Sri Lankans are among the top in the world's giving index, that is in
Rich or poor they are, they offer their coins in great devotion and joy to the Perahera as their minds are conditioned to giving.
Now you are seeing the appearance of the fire acrobats which is being led by Mr. E.D. Tilakaratna.
Rain does not come with thunder alone. Just as lightning flashes across the skies, the procession too has its flashes of light, dancing across the faces of people, lining the streets to watch. These are the fire dancers who are offering fire, inviting the rain gods to water our lands with rain.
Nilesh, even though it seems very paradox to learn that we offer fire to seek water, as you said, this phenomenon of nature is magnificently depicted by this group of fireball dancers who perform this thrilling stunt of acrobatics while illustrating how lightning comes with the rain.
The dancers are seen creating their paintings of fire, but for the experienced elders, it is a devout and committed fire offering.
Back in history, Kandian performing arts have been classified into 5 variants which were known as Wahala Ilangama, Singakari Ilangama, Tambarapittukari Ilangama, Natum Ilangama and Kavikara Maduva. Interestingly, it was the king's order that all 5 of these classifications must be performed in the Perahera, which is a royal order that is still being obeyed since the ancient times till the modern days.
These fireball dancers, trained by Mr. E.D. Tilakaratna of the Ragama Walpula Aesthetic Academy, have been performing in the Kandy Esala Perahera for many years, and on this occasion itself, we are seeing not just one, but several generations of artists representing this team of fireball dancers.
The dancers, being mindful of the part that fire plays in dispelling darkness, protecting crops and chinas, are seen taming the fire, faction and amazement on the onlookers.
The classification of Wahala Ilangama that was mentioned before by Pasasna in fact comprises of acts that creates a sense of thrill among the spectators, and the fireball dance we see in front of us is one such example of a performing art that belongs to the Wahala Ilangama.
The sun, moon, earth, universe, solar month, night and day are all cyclic, and the fireball dance highlight these universal cycles while depicting how they burn and cool as in our life cycles.
Next in line of the procession are the Buddhist flag bearers, who are clad in white national costumes, who are carrying the most respected flag of Buddhism while being preceded by the national flag of Sri Lanka. The sight of these Buddhist flags create a sense of tranquility among the spectators, reminding us the fact that this procession is in celebration, devotion, and an offering to the great Lord Buddha.
Symbolized by the national flag that was leading the army of flags. The Buddhist flag, on the other hand, is a symbol of faith and peace. The 6 colors of the flag represent the colors of the aura that emanated from the body of Lord Buddha when he attained enlightenment under the sacred vertical strips represent eternal world peace.
The colors displayed in the Buddhist flag represent the perfection of Buddhahood and the Dhamma, his preachings. The symbolic identities of these colors are illustrated as blue for universal compassion, yellow for the middle path, red for blessings, white for purity and liberation, and orange for the unshakable wisdom.
This ceremonial procession is performed in adulation of the living Buddha and as well as a paramita or act of kindness for the future Buddha. The hexacolored flag is displayed in ceremonious form to remind people of the great scope and depth of Dhamma that was preached by Lord Buddha. The flag bearers create a sense of unlimited compassion of the Buddha. This sight truly calms the undisciplined, wayward minds and focuses them on love and compassion that radiates across the universe the teachings of Lord Buddha.
The flag bearers we see here are the inmates of the Pallekele open prison camp who have been starring in this segment in the Perahera for many years. They too are humans just like us, who were once diverted in life in lieu for a wrongdoing that could have been a mistake of theirs or of their society. But this participation is of the ordeal in releasing them back to society as corrected humans, and therefore they are here today to pay homage to the sacred tooth relic in hope for.
The origin of the Buddhist flag that we see today and which is used internationally dates back to the year 1885, where it was designed by the Colombo Committee of Ceylon, which was graced by prominent Buddhist personalities such as Venerable Hikaduwe Sumangala Thero, Venerable Migettuwatte Gunananda Thero, and Don Karolis Hevavitharana. And this was first publicly hoisted on the Vesak public holiday under British rule.
An ancient poem translated from the book Sangarajavata, Risant of Asala, held from times ago in favor of the gods above, led by the grace of the Buddha, followed by the deities, the Perahera shall perambulate, just as the kings did commemorate. These white-clad flag-bearers remind the people of the way that the Dhamma impacted their lives from the day to the sacred tooth relic and was brought to the island. And also the calm atmosphere symbolically portrays the way to end this cycle of life or samsara.
Next up, you are seeing the sword bearers who are gracing the second Kumbal Procession of Kandy Esala Perahera 2023. And these sword bearers are from the Angampura team of Sri Lanka Air Force.
Walking in great discipline, in their calm and disciplined nature, are the army of sword bearers who provide protection to the Perahera casket.
Clad in white sarong and a white headdress, this army is seen carrying the raised swords, not in warfare, but in a disciplined walk of calm serenity, as Nilesh mentioned before. The symbolic idea of these sword bearers is the historic protection that is provided with utmost might to the sacred tooth relic. For those who know about the history of the sacred tooth relic would be patriotically proud of our history and the heroic personality who always protected the sacred tooth relic with highest levels of bravery. Now you're seeing the entrance of Peramune. The magnificent sight of the Perahera, the arrival of the very first elephant who will be carrying the Peramune is a norm of the Perahera that the Peramune or the front runner of the procession is the first person on elephant back, and neither officials nor elephants are permitted to parade before him.
Leading the way of the second Kumbal Procession is the tusker Indi tusker who was gifted to Sri Lanka in the year 1989 by the former Prime Minister of India, Mr. Rajiv Gandhi. And in fact, Indi Raja is currently the main casket bearer of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Clad in traditional white costume that comprises of the white jacket and triangular hat, the Peramune comes into view carrying the secretarial scroll known as the Lekam Meteor, which is encased in the long cylindrical silver casket. The particular scroll that is encased in this casket is made of Olali's tradition, royal duties and assets affiliated to the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Elephants are in fact one of the main elements of Sri Lankan culture. We see the elephant coming in many historic stories in both religion and culture. And in fact, anyone who views the Kandy Esala Perahera will always be inquisitive to find out on how many elephants will join the procession today. And now following the Indiraja Tusker, we are seeing the arrival of the very first heavy tree that represents the official musical ensemble who are permanently seconded to the service of the Sri Dalada Maligawa.
They perform, in fact, no Panchaturya Vadana or traditional orchestra of Sinhalese music that produce sounds using either drums or other musical instruments is permitted before the Hevisi as per the rule of the Kandian Perahera tradition.
Sri Lanka is rich with its own genres of traditional music, and Hevisi, which is dignified as the authentic sound of Sri Lanka. The history of Hevisi takes us back to the time when the sapling of the Jai Sri Mahabodhi tree was brought down to Sri Lanka by Sangamitha Therini, and this evidence marks the fact that Hevisi is the oldest traditional orchestra and Buddhist sound offering in Sri Lankan heritage.
Hevisi, as the most prominent orchestra of the five-fold musical instruments, too has its own variants that are authentic to various parts of the country known as Upcountry, Low Country and Sabaragama. The speciality of the Kandy Esala Perahera is the pure domination of upcountry traditional arts, wherefore this Patini symbol.
the musicianship of Hevisi in the Kandy Esala Perahera and for the daily rituals of the Sri Dalada Maligawa are assigned to the most skilled lineages of Hevisi drummers who are Udavela, Ihalavela, Malagammana and Molagoda, who represented the first row of the Hevisi troupe while marching to the beat of the drums. Apart from the key lineages which I mentioned before, we also see the presence of other Hevisi lineages in this Perahera, representing Valletota, Moradanda, Hevavissa, Kahalla and Udupihilla.
Hevisi is in fact the predominant form of music that is used for religious veneration in Buddhism and Buddhist affiliated gods in Sri Lanka. And this orchestra too has its own differences, not just in traditional but according to situations. When the sacred relic casket is carried out from the sandal chamber, the situational variant of puja Hevisi shall be played. And this shall change the Vadammana Hevisi when the relic casket is being carried towards the ceremonial tusker.
Once again, Hirava Valinadaya shall be played when the royal tusker shall step down to the moonstone and thereby change to the Gaman Hevisiya with the commencement of the Perahera.
It is an interesting fact from history that in ancient times the sacred tooth relic had been considered as a private property of the king, and the public had never been permitted in having a chance of worshipping it. It was indeed the thankful move by King Kirtishri Rajasingha who declared that the relics need to be taken in procession for the public to witness and venerate in seek for blessings.
The tune of Hevisi is believed to be spiritually healing the ill and creates an immense satisfaction to stay within the Dalada Maligawa premises during the daily offering times or the Tevava, as the entire surrounding of this temple of the truth gets filled with the symphonic sound of Hevisi, which dives deep into our blood and creates a patriotic feeling about ourselves, our religion, our culture and our traditions.
Riding on the second elephant with dignified majesty is the Gajanayaka Nilame of Sri Dalada Maligawa. You're seeing the entrance of Gajanayaka Nilame on the second elephant of the Kandy Esala Perahera. The Gajanayaka Nilame is the royal official in charge of the king's troop of elephants, and it was a position given to him directly by the king himself. To symbolize this ancient decree, the Gajanayaka Nilame, who is attired in the traditional Sinhala Mulamama, majestically approaches on a tusker while holding the Ankus or the Ankusaya, which is official symbol of the Gajanayaka Nilame.
And this tusker who is carrying the Gajanayaka Nilame is Raja, belonging to Venerable Alutnuwara Anuruddha Thero, the chief incumbent of the Kotte Rajamahaviharaya. Kotte Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Rohitha Bogollagama. According to the Perahera tradition, the Gajanayaka Nilame obtains the ankas from the Diyavadana Nilame after bowing down in respect and obtaining his blessings. It is the custom of the Perahera that no official shall proceed in the Perahera without the blessings or symbol that is handed over by the respective lay guardian.
Now you are seeing the glamorous entrance of the Kothala Padaya dancing troupe, which is being led by Mr. Nalin Jayasekara of Sri Dalada Maligawa.
Kothala Padaya is one of the most gentle dance performances of the upcountry tradition of dance, which is traditionally a dance of purity. The dancers carry a pot of saffron water on one hand and an arecanut flower on the other hand, and this dance symbolizes purifying the root in which the sacred tooth relic casket shall be carried.
The Kothala Padaya is in fact a ritualistic dance that is performed in healing rituals or Shanti Karma across up-country, low-country and Sabaragamo traditions, and here we are seeing the up-country version of the Kothala Padaya, which originates from the Kohaba Kankarya healing ritual as one of the 4 Hat Padaya or 7 dance episodes that comprise of the Bulat Padaya, Kothala Padaya, Mal Padaya, Salu Padaya, Pol Padaya, Yahan Mutti Padaya and Anguru Dummala Padaya.
Saffron water, where saffron is in fact considered as a natural purifier in our native traditions, which is still believed and practiced even in these modern times.
The first dance item of Sri Dalada Maligawa Perahera, this Kothala Padaya dance, will be representation of the Uddarata Hat Padaya, focused on either the Bulat Padaya dance or the Kothala Padaya dance. And interestingly, this Kothala Padaya dance had been included in the Esala Perahera in the means of a performance-based dance only from a very recent history since the year
Esala Perahera 2023. On the mount of this elephant we are seeing an official carrying a Buddhist flag, which is purely to symbolize the fact that this procession is truly a Buddhist festival. And marching in utmost pride is the elephant Banda, who belongs to the Honorable Diyavadana Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, Honorable Pradeep Nilangadala. Banda is in fact one of the most senior elephants who shall take part in the Kandy Esala Perahera. We could notice how Banda bites his trunk while walking in majesty, and elephants of Kandy were trained to bite their trunk as part of their walk during the times. The Honorable Diyavadana Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa in fact has 2 elephants, Raja, and he is the second elephant, who is Banda, who hails from the Godella Valauva in Ratnapura. And This is the entrance of the next dance performance.
The next dance performance, which is the Chamara dance troupe, which is led by the Chandananda Buddhist College, is now before you. The ancient poetic anthology that was written during the kingdom of Kotte, that is famously known as the Salalihini Sandesha, quotes that white tassels in motion along with majestic elephants are one of the supreme sights of auspicious visualities, and the Chamara dance is certainly an inclusion to add more auspicious value to this Perahera.
Chamara is a popular upcountry folk dance that is one of the most visually mesmerizing dance acts of the Perahera this evening. The Chamara is in fact a white tussled object that was used historically as a fanning tool to the sacred tooth relic, sacred requiraries, and prominent individuals, including the royalties.
You are witnessing these Chamara dancers swinging these white tassels in various stances, and it creates a soothing visual to the audience, but also remind the audience of the ancient times in which the Chamara played in a prominent role in cooling ourselves in the absence of the modern day equipment that we are using today.
The tussles are fanned to the rhythm of the flute and the Kandian drums, where we see the gentle cool breeze that is produced by these Chamara, which brings a very pleasant feeling. In fact, this was a regular feature of the royal courts in our ancient history.
A certain degree of teeth each other to maintain the visual consistency of this dance art. And you will be witnessing another similar tussle dance that is similar to the Chamara dance that you are seeing now, it will be known as Savarang dance, where the difference lies in the tool itself, since the Savarama has not just one but two tassels attached on either side of the object, unlike the Chamara, which has one tassel.
Next up, we are seeing another majestic elephant of the second Kumbal Procession, and this elephant is Kandula Veera, belonging to Venerable Kanangama Narada Thero, the chief incumbent of the Kaduwela Sankapiti Vihare in Kotalawala. Kandula Veera was once the mascot of the Sri Lanka army by the former minister Vimal Veeravansha.
Following Kandula, now we are witnessing the entrance of the Nayandi dance troupe, which is being led by Mr. Vasanta Gunatilaka. The Nayandi dance is one of the most significant dance performances of the upcountry tradition that holds a very prominent position in the Kandy Esala Perahera, especially during the Kumbal Procession festivities. If you look at the meaning of the word Nayandi, the name of the costume that is worn by the Nayandi dancers, which is the same costume that is worn by the Kandyan West dancer, turban, with a knot on the head center that is taking the shape of a cobra.
The most revealing narration of the Esala Perahera is found in the book written by the Chinese pilgrim Fa Hien in the 5th century. And now we see two young tuskers of the Sri Dalada Maligawa Perahera. On one side we see the tusker Sindhu belonging to Venerable Tibbatuave Sri Siddhartha Sumangala Thero, the Mahanayaka Thero of the Malvatta chapter, and Raju belonging to Venerable Warakagoda Sri Nandatana Thero, the Mahanayaka Thero of the Askiriya chapter, both representing the great Shyamopali Mahanikaya, which holds the administrative authority of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. Both of these tuskers were gifted in the year 2009 by the former President Mr. Mahinda Rajapaksha.
Mixed folk dance, which is being led by Mr. PCB Vijay Surya. Traditional dancing in Sri Lanka is segregated into two main types, which are Shastriya Nattu, or dance performances that are based on healing rituals, and the other being Gami Nattu, or folk dance performances.
The dance we see now is a remarkable fusion of not just one, but 4 different folk dance performances being danced simultaneously in the same spotlight.
This dance is represented as one team, but we could carefully observe how they break themselves into sub-teams among themselves based on their designated dance. It is true that it is the same music that is being played for the whole group, but this music plays the tune for 4 different dance acts that involve 4 different props and 4 different steps of dance, which are being carefully presented to maintain their cultural identity.
In this act, we see the dance artists representing 4 different folk dances, which are the Thalampata, the Likeli, Rabang and the Savarang, which we would see being performed as individual dance items across the 5 segments of this majestic Perahera. And this dance act is certainly a snapshot of the beauty of the Sri Lankan folk culture. And now we see the entrance of one of the greatest elephants of the Dalada Perahera this evening. And this is the elephant Gajaba, belonging to Mr. Ranjit Vijay Singha, who is certainly one of the most glamorous icons of the second Kumbal Procession this evening. And you are seeing an aerial image of the heritage city of Kandy, which is lit up in bright colors to escort the great Kandy Esala Perahera that is taking place this year for the 1713th occasion as part of the King's Order, according to the traditions that have continued since history. The sporadic invasions of the Dravidians resulted in the shift of the Kandian kingdom from Anuradhapura to several destinations: Polonnaruwa, Dabadeniya, Yapahuwa, Kurunagala, Kotte and Gampala, and with the final shift of the Kandian kingdom to this great city of Kandy, the relics have remained undisturbed, and thereby the Kandy Esala Perahera has been held annually to rejoice and honor the sacred tooth relic.
Now we are seeing the glamorous performance of the Pantheru dances, which is being led by Mr. Sarath Vijay Siri. The Pantheru you are seeing now is a musical instrument that is used as a rhythm tool across all 3 traditions of upcountry, low country and Sabaragamo, but the Pantheru dance is exclusively belonging to the Udurata or upcountry tradition of dance.
Since the 18th century, the instrument was used for the development of the semi-classical dance form, which is an art that was passed down from generation to generation. The dance is classified as a Gananatuma as per the theory of the Panchaturyanadaya, since the Pantheru is an instrument belonging to the Gana classification, as it needs to be dashed in order to be instrumented. Here we see the arrival of 2 of the most majestic tuskers of the Dalada Maligawa procession. On one side we see the great tusker Vasana belonging to the Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Devalaya, and along with him we see the tusker Burumaraja belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa stables. In fact, both Vasana and Burumaraja were lucky tuskers who are destined with the ability to carry the sacred relic Kamaraja, performing this great duty in utmost majesty.
Following the two tuskers, now we are seeing the entrance of the most glamorous West dance troupe, which is being led by Mr. Ishanta Ihalavela and Lasantha Vanasekara.
The most unique and the most recognized presentation of the Kandian dance heritage is the most fully adorned West Natua of the Kandian West dancer. The Kandian dancer's skill and dance form have been considered as an auspicious expression of Sri Lankan culture.
The West dance is more than just a ritual. It is a sacred recitation for protection against misfortune. So as we mentioned, West dance are also considered sacred. This most glamorous costume symbolically represents the regalia of the king, Malaya, the royalty who performed the ancient ritual of Hatapas Mangalya, which is a healing ceremony that was held 2,500 years ago.
In fact, it is the icon of the West dancer who is the branding identity of traditional Sri Lankan dancing across the seven seas, despite the presence of many artistic dance performances that are authentic to traditional Sri Lankan dance. It is amusing to hear that this is the same picture that is illustrated on anyone's mind when they hear the phrase Sri Lankan dance. We are now at the much awaited and the most devout moment of the Perahera, as now we see the royal tusker ceremoniously carrying the Perahera relic casket, guarded by the Dalada elephants, sprinkled by jasmine flowers, and officiated by the royalties, escorted by these West dancers.
Escorting the ceremonial tusker and the Dalada elephants, we see the Karyakaravana Chorale.
The very special orchestra that leads the relic casket are the Nagasingham instrumentalists, who are Indian influences ensemble of music. And this evening the royal tusker will be Singharaja, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa, and he is accompanied by the tuskers Miyan Raja, belonging to the Sri Dalada Maligawa, and Kandula, belonging to the Kalaniya Rajamahaviharaya. This is the chamber of versifiers, or the Kavikara Maduwa, the group of poets who walk behind the relic casket while singing the virtues of Lord Buddha.
These versifiers are holding several instruments, including the pump, when the relic casket is taken out of the relic chamber. And once again, you're witnessing the performance of the West dancers, which is being led by Mr. Sanjeeva Verapitiya and Peter Surasena. When we look at the West dance, it was in the 4th century BC when the first ever Hatapas Mangalya was performed in Sri Lanka by the Malaya king to cure Devidos, or godly curse that had been bestowed upon King Panduvasdeva, who is in fact a descendant of King Vijaya, the Indian prince who discovered the island of Sri Lanka as Thambapani. The story of King Vijaya and his tribal wife Kuweni is in fact,
According to history, Kuweni was a princess of the Yaksha tribe in Sri Lanka who became the wife of King Vijaya upon his arrival to Sri Lanka, being the first young lady who he witnesses just after discovering this copper-sanded land of Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, it was a sad incident when Kuweni was betrayed by King Vijaya, which led to a devastated Kuweni who was left out with both her children, being frustrated with pressure, which led to Kuweni cursing the King Vijaya and his descendants, which ultimately affected King Panduvasdeva, who was a relative of King Vijaya.
known as Devidos, was not cured of King Panduvasdeva, for which he invited the Malaya king from India to perform the healing ritual named Hatapas Mangalya to dispel this curse subjected to continue the Hatapas Mangalya to be performed, and its responsibility was delegated to a village youth named Kohomba before his return to India.
The role of these troupe of West dancers are to escort the way for the Diyavadana Nilame. And the specialty of the Kumbal Perahera is that we see the Diyavadana Nilame only walking in the first Kumbal Perahera, and the rest of the Kumbal processions are being graced by the Basnayaka Nilames of the Satara Maha Devalaya. In this evening of the second Kumbal Perahera, representing the Diyavadana Nilame of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, we see the Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Natha Devalaya in Kandy AWS Bandaranayaka gracing the procession. Basnayaka Nilame AWS Bandaranayaka is in fact the inaugural Basnayaka Nilame of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya in Kandy, and he also serves as the lay custodian of the Ambekya Kataragama Devalaya in Pilimatalava. While that marks the end of the procession of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, we are seeing the commencement of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya Perahera. This is the devout moment in which the requilleries of God Natha is being carried out of the shrine. The Sri Mahanatha Devalaya in Kandy is located right in front of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, where it is considered as the main shrine that was dedicated towards Lord Natha, and one of the oldest buildings in Kandy that was built even before the Sri Dalada Maligawa. The procession of the Sri Natha Devalaya is the first to follow the Dalada Perahera due to the belief that God Natha is next in line to attain Buddhahood.
And now you are seeing the entrance of the Buddhist flag bearers who will be gracing the Natha Devalaya Perahera of Kandy Esala Perahera 2023.
And these flag bearers are being represented by the civil security officers of Pallekele. The well-known fact behind God Natha is the belief that he is the next in line to attain Buddhahood as Maitri Bodhisattva, where he is also identified as Avalokiteshvara in Indian cults. And this is the mere reason why we see Buddhist flags being led in the procession of God Natha to symbolize the Buddhist affiliation that God Natha shares with Buddhism.
The Buddhist flag you are seeing right now was jointly redesigned by Mr. J.R. De Silva and the Colonel Henry Steele Olcott to mark the revival of Buddhism in Ceylon. This flag was accepted as the International Buddhist flag in 1952 at the World Buddhist Congress.
Following the flag bearers of the Sri Mahanatha Devalaya now
Just like how the Kayavasa troupe of the Sri Dalada Maligawa procession engages in their own voting offerings, the Kayavasa troops of the four Devalaya Peraharas are the actual lineages who still perform in the daily, weekly, monthly and annual rites rituals of the particular Devalaya. As Kayavasa is not just a part of Sri Dalada Maligawa's rituals, but is also similarly important to the offerings of the Devala shrines as the main Shabda Puja or offering towards the respective god. Interestingly, the tunes that are played by these ensembles are the ones that are unique to the respective Devalaya.
The fivefold musical instruments as recognized by the Sri Lankan music culture as the Panchathurrinada is noted as Atata, which are instruments played by both hands, Vitata, instruments played using sticks, Vitatatata, instruments played using hands and the stick, Gana, instruments that are dashed with each other, and Sushira, which are the instruments that are blown. This arrangement of the upcountry ensemble of Hevisi consists of 4 out of the 5 mentioned tunes, except for the Gataberea that represents the Atata tune. If we would identify the other instruments that are being played here, we see the Horanava, or the traditional windpipe, that represents the tune of Susira, the Thammattama, or the kettle drum, that represents the tune of Vitata, the Daula, that represents the tune of Vitatatata, and the Thalampata, the little hand cymbals, that represent the tune of Gana. The beauty of the Havisi evolves when all of these instruments are played together to make a symphonic sound. And now we see the first elephant of the Sri Natha Devalaya Perahera, who carries an official with the flag of God Natha. And this elephant is Rohana, belonging to Mr. Varuna Kannangar, who will be the ceremonial elephant of this procession towards the Randoli processions that are yet to come.
Next in line, you are seeing the Savarang dance troupe, which is being led by Mr. Dilshan Shalika and the dance team of Arya Aesthetic Academy.
Dance items which involve these tussles are used quite often in the Perahera, but this is not the usual Chamara dance that we witnessed previously. This dance, which is recognized as the Savarang dance, is similar to Chamara, but with the difference of the prop that is being used.
The Savarama, the main tool used by these dancers, consists of not one but two tassels attached on both its ends, which makes it a longer version of the Chamara instrument we saw at the main Perahera. However, the Savarama tool is meant to serve the same purpose as the Chamara, which is to fan and cool the impending icon of worship, which was traditionally the king and today the relic casket or the reliquaries of God.
The choreography of this folk dance, that is styled of the upcountry tradition, is designed to symbolize fanning, that is performed using different dance steps, different stances, and the visual beauty that is created by these tussles in motion are surely a soothing sight to the eye. The dance is performed as a team, and just as other folk dance performances, this Savarang dance too shows several episodes of breaking down into subgroups. And now we see two elephants of the Sri Natha Devalaya Perahera. On one side we see the elephant Chula, belonging to Venerable Bengamue Dhamma Magistrate Mr. Tilina Gamage of Maharagama. We often see the color yellow that is associated with the procession of God Natha. Is there any particular reason why we see the color associated with God Natha, Pasasna?
Yes, I believe that the color yellow is believed to be the skin tone of God Natha, so that is why the color of the elephants who are walking in the Sri Natha Devalaya Perahera are dressed in the color yellow.
Next up, we see the Likeli dance performance, which is being led by Mr. H.M.P. Upali Dharmaratna of the Shashikala Aesthetic Academy. Following this vibrant Likeli dance, which certainly takes us back to the practicing affairs of warfare, we see the elephants Kandula belonging to Mr. Roshan Samarakkodi of Maharagama, who works along with the elephant Sama belonging to Venerable Uduwe Dhamma Lokathero, the chief incumbent of the Alan Methiniyarama temple in Kirlapana. Elephants take part in the Kandy Esala Perahera not just from Kandy, like how it used to happen in the historic days. Attends take part in the Kandy Esala Perahera in devotion of the gods they respect.
Following that, we are now seeing the Nayandi dance troupe of Sri Natha Devalaya Perahera, which is being led by Mr. Asanka Karunaratna. The word Nayandi is in fact the name of the costume that is worn by the Nayandi dancers, which is the same costume that is worn by the Kandian West dancers with the exclusion of the devoted headdress that is replaced with a cloth turban. The Nayandi dance is said to be belonging to classification of Rupanatum due to its visual richness in attraction, and this dance is also known as Adaves, meaning half of the West costume, and at that times even known as Tanikachi, that relates to the special head turban that is worn by the Nayandi dancers.
The legend of God Natha takes us down through many cults in Buddhism, including the Mahayana and the Theravada traditions, where he is predominantly associated as the future Buddha. In the Sri Lankan history, there are recorded evidence of mentions of God Natha in the Sandesha of Thisara, Gira and Koul, where God Natha was one of the prime deities who was seeked by the ancient kings of Sri Lanka, who shall be carrying the requilleries of Lord Natha. This evening, the requilleries of Lord Natha are being carried by the ceremonial elephant Arjuna, belonging to Venerable Karatota Pannasiha Theru, the chief incumbent of the Vyavurukannala Budu Rajamaha Vihara in Dikwella, and Arjuna is accompanied by the elephant Kandula, belonging to Venerable Devalagama Dhammasena Theru, the chief incumbent of the Tissa Maharama Rajamaha Vihara in Hambantota, and the elephant Bandara, belonging to Mr. Amal Tilakaratna of Randeniya in Kegol. And let us now take this moment to feel and worship the virtues of Lord Natha. As that marks the end of the procession of the Natha Devalaya, we are seeing the commencement of the Sri Vishnu Devalaya Perahera.
And now what you're witnessing is the auspicious moment of the godly requilleries being carried out for the Sri Vishnu Devalaya Perahera.
Here we see the arrival of the state flags, which are represented to signify a very special fact. The only collection that are being carried in the procession of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya would be the Palat Kodi, that signifies the fact that Lord Vishnu is the guardian of Sri Lanka, and his eye is being shadowed upon all of these touched states and counties. And now we see the flag of the Satara Korale, known as the Irahanda Kodiya, being majestically carried by the elephant Taraka, belonging to the chief prelate of the Kaduwela Sri Rankadu Patini Devalaya, Mr. Kularatna Vijayatunga. Taraka is certainly one of the most majestic additions to the Vishnu Devalaya procession, as he shall march with his majestic head raised, and certainly one of the truly majestic icons of the entire Perahera this evening. Taraka was gifted to the Kaduwela Sri Ran President of Sri Lanka, Mr. Ranil Wickramasinghe. Next up, we are seeing the Hevisi troupe of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya, which is led by Mr. Saman Arambegedara.
So Nilesh, we have seen this Hevisi performances a couple of times in the main Perahera, but it is still fascinating to know how all of the blend of all these instruments individually contribute to the symphonic sound of the overall ensemble.
The Hevisi troupe of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya is notably special among the other Hevisi troupes, as we see throughout the procession based on several importances. As we know, the inaugural ritual of the Esala Perahera is the Kapsituina, or the planting of jack in the auspicious hour, and this piece of jack plant is being cut from the village of Alutnura, that is located in the footsteps of Kadugannawa, which marks the entrance to the district of Kandy, and is also known for the Alutnura Sri Dadimunda Devalaya, that is the main shrine in Sri Lanka, dedicated to Lord Dadimunda. The chosen piece of jack plant of copper is ceremoniously brought all the way from the Alutnura Dadimunda Devalaya premises to the Dadimunda Devalaya in Kandy on the mount of a tusker along a distance of 25 kilometers. The Dadimunda Devalaya in Kandy is located in the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya premises itself, and this is where the main piece of jack plant shall be cut into 4 equal quarters and distributed in the other 3 Devalaya shrines on the mount of 3 tuskers.
By King Sennarat in between 1604 to 1635, during the time in which the Uppulvan Devalaya in Alutnura was destroyed by the Portuguese in midst of the Kandyan invasion. With the rulers of the Nayaka clan, who are Indian origin, took over Sri Lanka, the Uppulvan Devalaya was transformed to a Vishnu Devalaya based upon their origins of belief.
And now we see the arrival of 2 young tuskers, who are certainly one of the icons of the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya Perahera. They are Mihin Raja and Rohan Raja, belonging to Mr. Neville Vanyarachi of Kotte. Just as how we saw the color of yellow associated with the Sri Natha Devalaya, it is special that we see the color blue associated with the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya Perahera, and I believe there's a legend behind this as well.
Indeed, Nilesh. So, as we all know, the god Vishnu is also known as Uppulvan, and it is believed because the complexion of the Lord Vishnu, the god Vishnu, was very dark. So, representing his dark complexion, I believe, the color blue is representing the Sri Maha Vishnu Devalaya and the god Vishnu until today. So maybe that is the reason, and that is the reason to which these elephants and all those other elements are being...
That is being represented by Mr. K.G. Dharmasiri, who represents the Kodituakku lineage. Interestingly, the Pantheru which we see has a connection with Lord Vishnu, as there's a belief that this instrument actually descends from the Chakrayuda, that is one of the weapons held by Lord Vishnu. And these three elephants are Bandara, belonging to Mr. Sisira Samarakona of Polgahavela, Sanju, belonging to Mr. Jagat Vitana of Matugama, and Sandev Raja, belonging to Mr. Pradeep Miyanapala of Mavanella. In fact, Banda is one of the most senior elephants of the Sri Mahavishnu Devala Perahera, and he is accompanied by two of the most young elephants of the Sri Mahavishnu Devala procession. And this is one of the most senior junior affiliations that we see as a collaboration in the Perahera this evening.
Now you're seeing another beautiful sight of Sri Dalada Maligawa, Kandy, which is being lighted up to celebrate the glory of Kandy Esala Perahera of year 2023. It is an interesting fact from history that in the ancient times, the sacred tooth relic has been considered a private property of the king, and the public had never been permitted in having a chance of worshipping it. So as we have now got the chance to celebrate the privilege of worshipping it, it was indeed because of the thankful move by Kirtishri Rajasingha, who declared that the relics need to be taken in procession for the public to witness and venerate and seek for blessings. And now we are seeing the most awaited moment of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya Perahera, which is the ceremonial tusker carrying the godly ornaments of God Vishnu, and as it marks the end of the Sri Mahavishnu Devalaya procession of Kandy Esala Perahera 2023. Today is the second Kumbal Procession of the Kandy Esala Perahera, which is taking place for the 1713th time since its history. And now we are seeing the commencement of Sri Kataragama Devalaya Perahera of the second Kumbal Procession of Kandy Esala Perahera Mangalaya, which is happening in the year 2023.
Now we see the arrival of Buddhist flag bearers of the Sri Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy. In fact, we have several types of shrines that are dedicated towards gods in Sri Lanka, which are predominantly known as Devala and Kovil. And the difference between the Devala and Kovil tradition is the fact that the Devalayas are more affiliated towards Kandy is in fact an affiliation site with Buddhism, which is the reason why we see Buddhist flags leading this procession.
Once again, going back to the story of Sri Kataragama Devalaya Perahera, This Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy too practices a variety of Tamil influenced rituals, such as the annual Theru festival that takes place annually in the month of June, and the chief priest or icon of the shrine is not less, especially with the administration headed by a Sinhalese Basnayaka Nilame and the Buddhist temple that is located within Devala premises, and that what makes this shrine as a Devalaya instead of a traditional kovil.
Leading the procession of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya is the elephant Gamunu, who belongs to Mr. Ratnasiri Arangalla of Veyangoda. Gamunu is in fact a very special elephant of Sri Lanka, not just in the procession of God Kataragama. In fact, Gamunu is one of the last auctioned elephants in Sri Lanka, the Sri Lankan domestic elephants in the country.
And following Gamunu, you are now seeing the Hevesi troupe, which is being led by Mr. P.V. James. And the Hevesi troupe is represented by the officials of Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, Kandy. It was previously mentioned about how Hevesi has its situational variants apart from its regional differences, and such differences include Kemmura, Yama, Puja, Hevesi, Hevesi Paha, Dura and Titmatras Hevesi. Situational variants are interesting to notice and identify, since the drumming and
Followed by the Hevesi troupe of the Sri Maha Kataragama Esala Perahera, we are seeing the arrival of a Savarang dance troupe. And this troupe of Savarang is represented by Mr. KPNG Kumara, who represent the Nitya Aesthetic Academy.
If you look at the legend of Lord Kataragama is known as the god of war, and he's a divine deity who is worshipped as Skanda Kumara, Kartikeya or Murugan in South Indian tradition. It is believed that Lord Kataragama is the younger son of Lord Shiva and goddess Parvati, and he is considered as an important deity in the Indian subcontinent since ancient times, worshipped as Mahasena and Kumara in North India, and is predominantly worshipped in the state of Tamil Nadu and other parts of South India, Sri Lanka, Singapore.
Kataragama too has a weapon that is unique to himself, that is known as the Velayuda, along with other symbols such as the peacock and the color red, according to Richard Gombrich. And now we see the Nayandi dance troupe of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, who are tasked with escorting the ceremonial elephant, who shall carry the requilleries of Lord Kataragama.
And this Nayandi troupe is led by Mr. Gayashan Malagamana of Malagamana Art Academy.
We of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya, who we see walking right in front of the ceremonial elephant. Can we know who this is?
That is the Iyer of Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya in Kandy, right?
Who is in fact the chief priest of the Sri Maha Kataragama Devalaya. He is indeed an official of Indian origin who is taking this role in many generations since history. This evening in the second Kumbal Procession, the requilleries of Lord Kataragama are being carried by the elephant Esala, belonging to Venerable Katugastota Saradatero, the chief incumbent of the Senanayaka Mudalindarama. This live broadcast of the second Kumbal Procession is brought to you by the Media and Special Projects Bureau of the Sri Dalada Maligawa. While that marks the end of the Sri Maha Kataragama Esala Perahera, this is the commencement of the final episode of this evening's Perahera, that is the procession of the Sri Maha Patini Devalaya.
And now what you're witnessing now is the moment where the godly requilleries of Goddess Patini has been taken out for the procession.
The first item which we see in the Sri Maha Patini Esala Perahera is the official heavy troop that is dedicated towards the service of Lord Goddess Patini of this shrine that is dedicated in Kandy.
Mr. M.G. Premadasa, representing the officials who are in service of the Sri Maha Patini Devalaya in Kandy. If you look at the story of Sri Maha Patini Devalaya, this Devalaya is the only shrine of the Kandian Satara Mahadevalaya that is dedicated to the virtuous goddess Patini, who is also the only female representation among the guardian deities of the sacred tooth relic. This Devalaya is located in the premises of the Sri Dalada Maligawa, which can be easily reached via Deva Vidya, and that is separated from the Sri Natha Devalaya from the ancient Advidya, which used to be the resting ground for the royal elephants.
The structure of the Kandy Esala Perahera starts off with the cup situela, 5 nights of the internal processions, 5 nights of Kumbal Procession, 5 nights of Ramdoli Perahera, and the day procession. And here we are in the second procession, which is the second Kumbal Procession. leading the way of the Sri Mahapatini. Manike is also one of the very few elephants who shall walk all the way from Kegol to Kandy to take part in the Kandy Esala Perahera, unlike many other elephants who use transport. And now we see one of the pot dances which we see for the very first time in the Sri Mahapatini Devala Perahera. And this troupe of pot dancers are being represented by Miss Anoja Veerakon of the Nilmini Aesthetic Academy of Kadugannawa. The pot dance, which is known as Kalagedi in Sinhalese, is in fact a folk dance that represents the lifestyle of women in villages. It primarily focuses the bond that the ladies share with the pot, which they use for their daily routine activities, and the audience can get a picture how the traditional Sri Lankan lady lives a lifestyle with the pot which she associates for most of her youth.
Sri Mahapatini Devala Perahera is the only item in Kandy Esala Perahera which is dedicated to a female goddess or a deity.
And such is a female elephant who we see marching up next. And this is the elephant Sita, belonging to Mr. Roshan Samarakkudi of Maharagama. And following Sita, we are seeing a Thalam dance performance. And this Thalam dance act is being represented by Miss Takshila Sirivardhana of the Takshila Aesthetic Academy of Yatihalagala.
This instrument that the female dancers are holding right now, it is called Thalampata, or it is a small set of cymbals that create a vital instrument used in all forms of traditional dancing in Sri Lanka. Titmatre. But here is the Thalam dance considers these little cymbals as the main prop itself, where the dancers play the cymbals in denoted rhythm, which aligns the footwork and hand movements accordingly.
Following up next is two elephants who are actually indeed very good friends with each other. And on one side we see the elephant Tarindu belonging to Venerable Kobawaka Dhamminda Thero of the Kataragama Raja Vihara, who walks alongside with Raja belonging to Mr. Asanka Vijay Singh of Balangoda. Anyone who can visit Kandy these days can certainly take a glimpse of the friendly bond that is shared between Tarindu and Raja. And following that, we are seeing another special dance act which can only be seen in the procession of goddess Patini. And this is the Goyam Natuma, or the mixed folk dance.
And this troupe is trained and led by Miss Takshila Sirivardhana of Takshila Art Academy of Yatihalagala. And there is a very special reason that we see this Goyam dance, the Sri Mahapatini Devala Perahera today. Goddess Patini is also affiliated as the goddess of prosperity, and the said virtue of prosperity is symbolized in the Perahera in the form of this agrarian dance that depicts the root of prosperity in our. The agricultural dance which we call as the Goyam Natuma, is Sinhalese is a beautiful illustration of the village folks who are engaging in their role in agricultural activities. As we know, Sri Lanka is known since history as the granary of the East, a country that is blessed with the soils that can flourish any crop. And this is the same reason why Sri Lanka was powerful in its primary sector of economy.
And now we see another graceful elephant of the Sri Maha. Manike belongs to Mrs. Shriyani Gunawardana of Dangovita and is considered as one of the most routine participants of the Sri Maha Patini Esala Perahera. Following Dangovita elephant, we are seeing the final Nayandi dance troupe, who are tasked with escorting the ceremonial elephant of the Sri Maha Patini Devalaya. And this troupe of Nayandi dancers are being trained and led by Mr. Mithun Bandara of the Mithun Bandara Aesthetic Academy of Watapuluwa. In front of the ceremonial troupe of elephants, and let us take a moment to witness the ceremonial elephants of the Sri Mahapatini Devalaya, led by the elephant Mangala belonging to Mr. Udaragalapati of Giriyulla, who has been performing this ceremonial role of Goddess Patini for over 15 years. And today Mangala is being escorted by the elephants Rani belonging to Mr. Richard Gonakumbura of Balangoda, and the elephant Parami belonging to Mr. Samantha Vichayman of Madagoda. And that marks the end of the second Kumbal Procession of the Kandy Esala Perahera 2023.
We hope that our country will be blessed with fertility and rains.
May our country prosper. Dalada Samindu Pihitai.